What's up guys? I'm back with some super exciting news today and a video series that I am very excited to start making. So as you could probably see by the title and the cover of this video, I decided finally to go to culinary school. Alright, so that may not be as exciting to you as it is to me, but I wanted to start making this video series as a way to kind of teach and show people what the heck you learned in culinary school. So before I decided to go, I watched tons of videos to see what are people learning in culinary school? Is it worth the money? Is it worth the investment? And I couldn't really find a video series that dug into the ins and outs of what was being taught in each of these classes. My goal with this video series is to teach you all what I'm actually learning in these classes so that way you can see, is culinary school worth the investment for me personally? Are these things that I want to learn and that I'm really going to be excited about learning? Or maybe hey, this doesn't seem like it's worth the money. Culinary school doesn't seem like it would be a good fit for me. If you're interested in this, definitely hit subscribe and follow along with me on this journey. I'm super excited about it. I'm not sure the exact format that it's going to take. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to film anything in the class or if I'll just kind of have to take videos and do these talking style videos and throw in pictures as necessary. Not really sure yet, but we'll just kind of see where everything takes us. As far as how often I'm planning on uploading these videos, probably either once a month or once every couple months, just whatever makes sense with the amount that I'm learning, so that way these videos don't get too boring. Okay, so at this point I've actually taken 2 intro classes, which we'll talk about in a minute, but I wanted to kind of jump on and explain my reasoning for wanting to go to culinary school. So I have now had my blog for about 2 years and I spend tons and tons of time researching things, researching the history of a dish, the best way to make it, different ingredient and flavor options and how they're gonna, affect the end dish. And I just spend so many hours doing this that I finally decided it's probably worth the time and the investment to go to culinary school so that way I can learn exactly all of these processes and I'm not spending hours and hours researching these every single time I want to sit down and write a recipe for you. My thought was if I spend less time researching, I'll have more time devoting to learning how to write really good recipes and honing that technique, as well as really developing my palate and flavor profile to come up with really good recipes that have lots of quality flavors in them. So that's a little bit about my reasoning. You may be watching this video with completely other reasons. I know some people in my class were wanting to become private chefs, were wanting to own a food truck, others were wanting to go into the restaurant industry. So whatever your reasoning is, I hope that this video series helps you. Alright, so let's jump into more of the specifics about my specific culinary program. I decided to go to my local community college. At this point in my life, I have a full-time job, a house. I can't really just uplift myself and go to a big fancy culinary school like Institute of Culinary Education or Culinary Institute of America. Not really practical for me right now. I'm also not really looking to spend a ton of money on this, which it's awesome if you have the time and the money to be able to go to one of those very prestigious culinary schools, but for me, the community college just worked out and kind of fits with my lifestyle right now. And I do want to say that I still think I'm getting a very good education at this community college, which is part of the reason I chose this program. A lot of these culinary schools around the US are teaching many of the same things. It's just kind of the prestige that goes along with certain schools. So I'm gonna leave that up to you whether or not you care about that prestige. For me, I just want the knowledge. I really want to learn and be able to kind of have a more relaxed environment. As somebody who's not wanting a career in the restaurant industry, I'm kind of hoping that this program's a little bit more relaxed and I can kind of take away the things that I want to learn. Alright, so let's jump into those classes. I have my phone here with some notes on them, but more or less I'm going to talk to you about all of the classes for me that I'm going to have to take in order to get my culinary certificate and kind of what each of the classes is going to teach, as well as how much they cost, because if anybody is like me, you're probably a little bit nosy and want to know the cost. So for reference, I live in the Midwest and this is a community college, so take that as you will as far as pricing goes. The first 2 introductory classes that I took, which I'll get more into in a minute, were a sanitation class. So this class helped me get my ServSafe certification. And then I also had to take an introductory class just to kind of help us get familiar with the program get some basic knife skills under our belt and things like that. So the first main lab course that we'll be taking is Food Preparation 1. In this class, we'll be learning things like stocks and soups, breakfast items, lunch items, and honing the knife skills. So this is kind of just like the base class to get our feet wet and teach us some of the basics that we'll need for the more advanced food preparation classes. Up next, Food Prep 2, an obvious transition. This class is going to be teaching about the meats and proteins and seafood, along with different ways to plate items, menu planning, and getting our skills more refined in some of those tougher areas of cooking. Up next, we have a baking and pastry class. I'm really looking forward to this one. Baking, I think, has more of a science to it, and I'm excited to learn all those weird, nerdy science things behind baking and pastry. So this class is gonna go into introductory breads, cookies, different pastries like puff pastries. And then the next class that kind of follows that is advanced cooking. And that class will go into even more tough desserts like eclairs and cake decorating, cheesecakes, custards, puddings. So lots of different things in that class. And then we'll wrap up the certificate with 2 classes. One is a nutrition class, which I had actually already taken a couple years back, so I already have that one under my belt. And then finally a hospitality management class. So that kind of rounds out the program just to give you an idea of what exactly I'll be learning and talking about. Now the juicy stuff, the pricing. I'm gonna have my husband, when he edits this video, just throw all of the numbers up on the screen for all the different classes that I talked about. All of these classes are the class price with just the tuition and fees. This is not books included. But I'm really excited because I should be able to get my whole certificate for under $5,000, which to me is a really good investment, and I can kind of pay as I go. And that's exactly what I was looking for in this program. So let's jump back to those 2 classes I was telling you about earlier so I can kind of give you a little bit more detail about what I learned in each class. So the first class was a sanitation class, and as you may guess from the name, it's all about kind of the safety procedures that you need to follow if you're working in a restaurant or handling food. This class basically prepared us to take the ServSafe certification exam, and we learned all about different things to keep food safe. Everything from checking the temperature of meats and seafood so that way you know that their internal temperature is correct and people aren't going to get sick from them, to high-risk populations that you can't serve things like undercooked meat or certain dishes to because they're at high health risk. Also to things like pest control in a restaurant and how to make sure that you're properly cleaning equipment. So it really kind of covers almost everything. And part of me during this class is like, this doesn't really matter to me because I'm not working in a restaurant. I have a blog, I'm not cooking for people, I'm just cooking for myself. But as I started to think about it more, like really this class is beneficial to anybody because you want to make sure that when you're handling food, you know the proper things to do, and you're not, even if you're just cooking for your family, you don't want to get them sick. You want to make sure that you're handling things properly. And so honestly, like this is probably stuff everybody needs to know. So what my kind of goal is for these classes is to just like take things out of them that I want to learn and make them applicable to what I'm wanting to do in the food world. So although I may not work at a restaurant and need to know about restaurant pest control, there were certain things on this ServSafe exam and in this class that they taught me that I think will be applicable for me to teach my readers and make sure that they are being safe and following certain cooking procedures in order to prepare food for their family. So the next class was our intro class, and in this class we met only 2 days, and what we did was kind of talk through some basics of cooking. So it was really cool because our instructor first asked us a little bit about us and what we wanted to do in the food world, and I really appreciated that because they talked about how whatever we wanted to do, they were going to kind of connect us and help us network. So we got to know people in the industry and could learn from different people and different experiences while we're in this program. So I'm sure no matter where you go to culinary school, people will help you do that. And it's really great because there are so many careers in the field that I think you can learn about what you're specifically interested in. So for me, more food media and blogging is what I'm interested in particular. So we first talked about that, and then next we talked through different cooking terms. So they wanted to get us kind of familiar with some basic cooking terms. What is sauteing? What is gluten? What is proofing? Things like that, so we kind of have base knowledge going into these classes. Now I'm sure we'll continue to learn more about that and kind of get better about automatically knowing what things are, but that was kind of a good intro, especially for some of the words that we may not have known or been familiar with as home cooks. We also got our knives and our uniforms, and then we practiced some basic knife skills. This was really fun. It was fun getting a new set of knives and seeing how sharp they are and realizing that I probably need to sharpen mine at home a little bit more. We got these and they kind of prepped us for what the kitchen was going to be like. We took a tour. We got to see kind of where everything was placed, and this is really helpful because apparently during our first lab class we're just gonna go in and start cooking immediately. So I think that was helpful to kind of get a hang of where everything was at, get some basic knife skills under our belt, so that way the first day we can go in and feel confident about everything. Alright, well, I know this video was pretty personal about my culinary experience and why I'm wanting to go in and kind of what I took from my introductory classes, but for the videos that are to come in this series, I'm going to try to make them more general and just really share and explain to you what I'm learning, so that way, like I mentioned earlier, you can decide if culinary school is right for you. You can kind of learn about what they're going to be teaching, what you're going to learn, and if it's right for you. So definitely hit subscribe if you're interested in this series. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments. I may not be able to answer them right now, but hopefully throughout this journey at some point I'll be able to answer them and help you out. So feel free to throw those there, and I will see you in the next video.